All right, folks, what is going on? This is episode 617 of the First and Frame Rate Show. I am Viv Baller. Over here, we talk about Georgia Southern and Atlanta Falcons football. And I hope you guys had a pretty good weekend. I had a pretty decent weekend. Hung out with some family, did some things that were, very productive and positive. Hopefully, you guys were able to do the same. And we're just rocking and rolling into this Monday. The Monday's over. Going to get ready for Tuesday. And like I said, so far, so good. The week has started off okay, all things considering. But today we're going to talk some Atlanta Falcons. Falcons are getting some media attention, everybody. And, you get the negative stuff every now and then, the rankings and what people are saying about, where this team should be placed. But one thing I will say, that narrative is starting to die down a little bit. It's gotten to the point where the Falcons are getting some pretty decent media attention. Grady Jarrett was on Good Morning Football. We also had Drake London on there earlier this week. On the 5th, I think was it the 5th of June? I think it was the 5th of June. I'm sorry. So it was earlier this month. So we're starting to get some pretty good attention. And I always talked about the good, or at least the fair assessments that SI.com has been putting out. It's starting to, I think media is starting to take notice of what this team is, so it's going to be really interesting. We're going to talk about that for a good 10 to 15 minutes, give you my thoughts and opinions on that and what does it mean for the team going forward. So if this is your first time here, welcome. I can be found on YouTube and Rumble. I'm also on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, and Google Podcasts. I want to thank you guys once again for the support. I mean, we are chugging right along to 1,500 subs on YouTube. That's really a pretty cool accomplishment in my book. I'm really, really excited about that. But it all thanks to you guys. The podcast avenues, people are constantly listening over there, being their own program manager, listening to it at their leisure. I really appreciate that as well. People that are on Twitter is a little up and down, but numbers are always weird over there. But I can be found on Twitter at VFBaller. Also have the website, firstandframerates.com, where you can pretty much subscribe to the podcast avenue and donate and help grow the channel as well, or the podcast. So let's just go ahead and get into this. Well, Grady Jarrett has been on Good Morning Football. Now, I haven't really watched it because, at the time I was working my daytime job, so I haven't really watched it. But it's not really about the fact that he's been on there. It's the fact that he's hosting the show. He was hosting the show. Then they had an interview with Drake London. And you also seen other interviews with Arthur Smith. And, people are starting to really look at this team as like, okay, I don't know what the NFC South looks like overall because there's a lot of question marks because a lot of veteran quarterbacks are gone. Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Matt Ryan, all those guys are gone. So it's kind of like an open, division. And the Falcons is pretty much it is the team that's made the most improvements. So it's very easy to say that, hey, the Falcons are they're going to be the front runners. And I think people are starting to see that. All the memes and all the stuff that's been going on with this team, with the other regime and the other GM and, other players that was on the team. It was funny and it was all jokes, and I get it. But now people are starting to, pay more attention, all right, this team could be something. Not only that, their schedule is very favorable, and they can make some noise, even with, the unknown of the quarterback and how well this defense is going to gel together. Because, for one thing, that's for certain, that we do know what this team is about. We know this team can run the ball. And if, like I said, if Desmond Ridder just don't, make mistakes, this team is going to be a really big problem for not just the NFC South, but the entire, I'll say the NFL, to be honest. And, I think the media is starting to see that. Grady Jarrett and Drake London and all these other people don't get playtime on these networks unless they know there's something there. Just to be honest, you don't see anybody from the Arizona Cardinals getting on these, these airwaves. Or you see what I'm saying? It's not really, viable. Like there's some other teams I can name that's not really getting that attention. But I think a lot of people are starting to understand, wait a minute, these Falcons are probably better than advertised. And, there's film out there. They probably looked at some of the OTAs and some of the early stages of training camp, and, they're going to start seeing what these guys can do, and everything is mandatory, and these guys are starting to come in. The word gets around. Words always gets around, who's going to be the next guy to step up. There's already been rumblings about Bijan Robinson, how well Desmond Ridder has, gain confidence in taking command of this offense. See what the defense is going to be able to do to gel together. We just talked about the defense this past, Friday on the show where Ryan Nielsen has these guys learning new things or fine-tuning new things even for the veterans. So when you start to see all these things gel together and you look at what happened last year, the last 2 years, going 7-10 with the squad that had no business winning 7 games at all. So you're starting to see where, okay, with all the money that they had, this is starting to gel together. They got Drake London possibly going to be a number 1 receiver. You see Mac Hollins. You see Desmond Ridder that can get him the ball. We've seen that. Now, this is another thing. We've seen Desmond Ridder can get the ball to Drake London. He's a better passer than Marcus Mariota, which is not, I ain't going to say it's not saying much because Mariota is so low. But Desmond Ridder and Drake London was able to get some type of rhythm together. Now Kyle Pitts is coming back into form. Jonnu Smith was an excellent tight end under Arthur Smith is in the fold. So you're going to see some 2 tight end sets with 2 deadly running backs in the backfield and some guys that can catch on the outside. And I'm not even talking about Scotty Miller that could be in the slot. This could be a really big problem for a lot of teams. I mean, if anything, they can't go less than 7-10. I know somebody was on one of my YouTube comments said that 10-7 is the floor. I'm not going to believe that. I believe this team can win 3 more games than they did last year. And not only that, I think these other outlets are starting to see it. Like I said, you don't get on these shows unless if they don't think that you're interesting. And I think some people are starting to see this whole 28-3 thing. Yes, it's still funny in some cases. I mean, even us as fans, we look at it and laugh it doesn't hurt and sting that much anymore. It's been ran through so many times. We just look at it like, okay, you got something better than that. I mean, to be honest, if you really want to, make fun of this team, pull up Bobby Petrino. You know what I'm saying? That, bring up one of Dan Quinn's speeches. 28-3 is like, okay, yeah, that happened, but it's not very insulting anymore. And I think I think that some of these media outlets are starting to see that, like, okay, these guys are on a mission. These guys are going to be doing something a little bit different. This team is built different. These guys are not what they had with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. You got to understand, Desmond Ridder is trying to come to the quarterback that he wants to be, and he's actually making things work for him and himself. And he's starting to, get rapport with other players. And you start to see where the offensive line, like Chris Lindstrom thought highly of him. Grady Jarrett on the defensive side said he might surprise some people. Drake London loves him. Tyler Algier said good things about him. There's like so many people starting to say good things about him. And you can look and tell that there's some credence to that. Not because everybody's saying the same thing. I mean, that's your teammate. That's what you expect to hear. But when you look at the work that Desmond Ridder put in, I think people are starting to see that. People are starting to understand, like, okay, wait a minute. This kid came in pretty, green. But when he comes back, he's put on some weight. He's bulked up a little bit. I had the episode when you seen the difference between the two from one year to the next. I mean, he looks more focused. He is continuously trying to learn what, the offensive coordinator and Coach Arthur Smith want him to do. And, when you're a young quarterback, that's what you want. You want the rest of this team to feed off of that. And when people are starting to see that, this is when you see the media starting to really, turn around a little bit. Because don't get me wrong, there's some media outlets, and I think they're like some of the old guard, some of the people that think it's cool to still talk bad about Atlanta sports, not just the Falcons, but Atlanta sports in general. They find a way to downplay the Falcons, like the 28th overall ranking or, 26th overall ranking. And, it makes you want to go out and look for other outlets that actually going to give a fair assessment. And I think with Grady Jarrett being on the show is a fair assessment. It's not rah-rah, they're not pro-Falcons. They're just giving him a spotlight because he represents a team that's on the rise. Same thing with Drake London. They think Drake London's going to have a bounce-back year. And to be quite honest with you, if he was to hold on to those fumbles the last, those fumbles that he had, Dude could have been like really, really special throughout that entire season, even though he put up pretty good numbers. So when you look at this team and you look at what the perception of this team is now, it's starting to change in a big way. It's starting to change to a point where we are being much more respected than we was in the past. I mean, you can't lean everything and say things was Matt Ryan fault anymore. You really can't say things were, Tarek Gurley or what was the other running back we had? Not Michael Turner. Michael Turner was awesome for us, but you know what I'm saying. You just can't blame, those guys. Cordell Patterson, Bijan Robinson, and Tyler are just gonna show up and play. You can't say Julio's gonna take off games anymore because now we got Drake London, which look like he's determined to be a top-notch receiver, and with guys like Matt Collins and Scotty Miller, there is going to teach him how to be, more of a leader, be assertive of himself. Do I need to talk about the front seven with all that, all that experience right there? Arnold Ebiketie, Taquan Graham, those guys are going to learn, D'Angelo Malone, they're going to learn heavily from all those guys. The secondary, AJ Terrell, Jeff Okuda, Mike Hughes, you got Jesse Bates, Richie Grant. We have a really solid team, guys. I'm not saying that this team is going to go all the way to the top, but based on what we had last year and go 7-10 and make all of these moves, there's no way that we're going to backslide. I mean, I could be wrong because things do happen, but I really feel in my gut there's no way that we backslide. Hopefully I didn't jinx anything, but I feel like it's going to be great, and it's good to know that the media is starting to see it as well. The media attention is starting to understand. We're starting to get, guys that are being in the limelight, guys that that are prominent on this team, and they're going to show off to other people like, hey, the Falcons aren't just a team that went 28-3. Was up 28-3. This team is a lot better now. And you got to understand, this guy right here, Grady Jarrett, if we would uphold that lead and we would have won that game, he would have probably been the MVP of the game. Not Matt Ryan or anything, because Matt Ryan played okay, but Grady Jarrett was getting at Tom Brady. Like, I think he had like 2 or 3 sacks or something like that. He had a pretty good game. It's just things happen after, that one person missed a block, a person that we will not name, but we'll leave that alone. If you like this commentary, the like button, share this podcast, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let me know what you guys think, man. Are the Falcons getting this media attention? It's good attention. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you want to stay the underdog and fly under the radar? A lot low-key, I kind of want to fly under the radar. Leave us alone. Back then you didn't want me. Now we're a little bit popular. You're trying to get all up on us. Shout out to Mike Jones, But nevertheless, I'm going to get up out of here. I could be found on YouTube and Rumble, also on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, Google Podcasts. Catch me on the Twitter at VFBaller. Also, the website is firstandframerates.com. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening. I will see you guys on Tuesday. Hopefully we'll be talking about more Atlanta Falcons stuff, but I don't know, some Georgia Southern stuff just dropped. We just got a new commit for Georgia Southern today, and the commits just keep coming with Georgia Southern. Just another team that's on the rise. It's just awesome. But I'm gonna get out of here. Maybe we'll talk about one or the other, maybe both. I'll see you guys then. Thank you guys for supporting. I really appreciate it. Hit the like button, 5-star rating on that podcast avenue, and I'll see you on the next one. All right, y'all. Y'all be easy and y'all be blessed. Peace.